Michael Ackister is on the second to last, the project coordinator for the GFUNDP Humboldt Current LME program, working on that LME. And then last but not least, on the far right, Al Duda, the former senior advisor for international waters to the GF. He's going to support us after some quick interventions as a discussant to facilitate input from the panel. And then, of course, my esteemed co-chair, Ivan Zavatsky, Senior Water Resources Advisor within the GF. So basically, we're going to invite each panelist in order to make a brief remarks, say up to 5 to 6 minutes. Some of you, I think, have slides, some may not. And we'll start in the order of the program. And so I'll start with Sandra from the Ocean Conservancy.
Thank you. Sure, I have a lot of slides and I go through very fast, so I want to make sure that I can get them. Thank you for having me today. And it's already not working. We'll be able to okay. We've already heard from Dr. Lachenko about the National Ocean Policy and what the goals of it are: protecting our system, supporting sustainable use, and preserving maritime heritage. We've also heard quite a bit about the need to take sort of a big picture ecosystem-based management approach, not looking at just single sectors, but looking holistically, including at all of the human uses. And with all due respect to Bud, we do like to describe this as a tool so that we can differentiate that this is a tool or a process in order to achieve to manage on an ecosystem basis to achieve these goals. But clarify that coastal marine spatial planning is not our end game. Clearly, this is a very science-based process, which we've heard quite a bit about, and has been employed around a lot of the marine ecosystems of the world. Thank you, Dr. Sherman. So while there are a number of LMEs in the United States, I'm just going to focus on one. They're all quite different. I'm going to focus on the Northeast one. This is actually comprised of 2 separate regions, both New England and the Mid-Atlantic. It's an area that has a broad and relatively shallow continental shelf, some plateaus such as Nantucket Shoals and Jordan's Bank, which are highly productive. It's basically sand and cobble with some boulder areas. And it's divided up into 2 different governance regions. One is the Northeast, NROC, and the other one is MARCO for the Mid-Atlantic. You'll see both of these were actually formed quite recently and are really just beginning to initiate coastal marine spatial planning. There's a lot of existing uses in these areas, fishing, shipping, all the things we've heard about. I would like to draw attention to the upper left-hand side. This gentleman is a Native American from the Wampanoag tribe, and there are a lot of Native American tribes that actually have really spiritual uses of the coasts and oceans. We also obviously have a lot of emerging uses: wind, hydrokinetics, more aquaculture, the ever-present need to be siting LNG facilities. And so we need this planning to reduce conflicts, whether they're use conflicts or use environment conflicts, such as trawling and some of our deep sea corals. We need planning to be able to evaluate cumulative impacts, fishing, nutrients, vegetal disposal. And in this New England area, the 2 main drivers for doing this kind of planning have been wind development and conservation. This region has the advantage, and one of the reasons they're moving out so quicker than the others, is that 2 of the states, both Massachusetts and Rhode Island, have already done this kind of planning for state waters. And since I'm from Rhode Island, I thought I'd focus on that. So I'm just going to show you some of the data overlays from Rhode Island. Their goals were also wind and conservation. So some of the data is what is the wind speed, what's the bathymetry, what's the bottom type. These tan areas are large boulder fields where you can't drive the wind pylon. There's a lot of fishing, fixed, both commercial as well as recreation. There's shipping. There's a lot of underwater cables. Because this was a very active site for the Navy during the Second World War, there's a lot of places where there's unexploded bombs on the bottom of the ocean, so you don't want to be driving wind pilings there either. There's some important habitat, like diving duck habitat. plan were that they did actually define this renewable energy area off of Block Island in state waters, where they're just now in the permitting process for a wind project, as well as some conservation areas. And these are just the minimum